Iborn, very good morning. It's a great pleasure to welcome you to this webinar series again by Glenmore Global Resources. Before I introduce our resource person today, let me explain a little bit about what this Glenmore Global Resources is. Glenmore is a Sri Lankan organization with strategic partnerships with Harrison's Assessments, the psychometric assessments provider, and Workplace Options WPO USA. WPO is the world's largest privately owned and independent provider of integrated employee well-being solutions. It serves 65 million employees, 100,000 organizations in over 200 countries and territories across the globe. Glenmore provides end-to-end HR solutions. They are into training for all categories, and they are into outward bound trainings. If your organization needs some executive coaching or transition coaching, they can help you with that. Glenmore has a team of qualified counselors who can help your employees in all three languages. Could be in Sinhala, could be in English, or in Tamil language, counseling. So it's coaching and counseling, both services are provided by Glenmore. If you want to know how your employees think about your leadership, or understand, if you want to understand the pulse of your employees, Glenmore can help you with a leadership survey or a climate survey. These things would help you to understand the pulse of the employees or about your leadership style, or if you want to make some adjustments. Apart from those services, if you need some legal support in relation to labor related matters, or to prepare a kind of a policy procedure manual for your organization, or if you want to assess your company's degree of labor compliance, Glenmore has a well qualified and experienced legal and labor professionals. Glenmore's business model is different to a traditional consulting organization. They assemble the right resources with the right expertise locally or globally, and then deliver sustainable solutions that fit the client organization's need and budget. Through their partnerships with a wider, well-connected network, Glenmore is able to source you the ideal resource person for a comparatively lower cost than what you would pay them individually or if you would access them directly. Once they conduct a program, they provide a 6 months to 1 year post-training support with the client, and especially free of charge. This is a value addition given to all the Glenmore clients. Glenmore, with its international partnerships, work with small startups to MNCs or blue chip organizations. So, colleagues, today's session is Reimagine, Reengage, Restart. This is the 5th webinar Glenmore conducts for you. If you have any question, please use the chat box below as we mute the microphones, or you can text it to 0768 031 031. I'll read it again, 0768 031 031. Or you can mail to info@glenmore.lk. info@glenmore.lk. So for this session, we invited a well-reputed HR personality, Sam Thrimavithana. He is the Associate Director HR of Virtusa Corporation and the founder of Punch Global Learning, a successful startup on AI and simulation-based training solutions. Sam has been recognized as one of the most influential talent leaders in Asia by Times Accent at the Global HRD Summit in 2017. He is also a certified trainer by City and Girls UK, accredited assessor of Harrison's Assessments, and a certified Scrum Master and AWS certified cloud professional. Sam has conducted more than 1,000 public and in-house workshops for 100 plus leading organizations in Sri Lanka, Maldives, Brunei, Malaysia, India, Bangladesh, Singapore, and Dubai. So, Ibon Sam, welcome to the session.
Hi Prabhash, thank you very much for having me in the program.
Sampath, so reimagine, re-engage, restart. That's our theme. Shall we start the discussion from here? Could you please first explain what these three words are. What do you mean by those? Reimagine, re-engage, restart. At least we know restart means, at least we know that maybe restarting a computer. But what are these three words? In your words, can you elaborate a little bit more on that, Sampath?
Um, yeah, Prabhash. So once again, thank you very much for inviting me, Prabhash, and the Glenmore team. I've been actually a keen follower of your webinar series, also particularly some of my friends like Dhammika's session and as well as Ajit's sessions. It's great that you're organizing these things on a Sunday morning, sharing knowledge, and it's quite new normal for us also now. Getting up early in the morning and logging in and sharing whatever we know with the rest of the world. Yeah, so actually, when you proposed me last week this topic of these buzzwords of reimagining and re-engaging as well as restart. Now, of course, restart is something even the government these days use, like Restart Sri Lanka and various other campaigns. If you look at the reimagining piece, Prabhash, now that word is a buzzword, particularly at least in our industry, right? So not only during COVID period, but even in the recent past, this word has been used in various different forums, particularly in certain methodologies like design thinking and all, where you try to think differently, try to recreate, try to basically kind of redesign, and it's closely linked with startups, disruptions. So it's been used quite often, and it's actually fundamental and central to
Yeah,
any innovation. But it's not only in particularly in IT and that type of industries, but the disruption, reimagining has been taking place for centuries. I mean, this has been there for the so many decades, right? So, but it has
yeah,
become now kind of critical. That's probably the difference, and not only for a particular industry, it has become fundamental and central for everyone. For example, starting from a company to probably a grocery store or maybe a vegetable retailer. Now they will have to start reimagining how their business will have to be done. And also, if I may, I can talk to you about that later in detail. You can do it reactively as well as proactively. So reactively, it happens whenever a problem is being presented. The human tendency is to think differently and to respond. But proactively is where it happened before. You basically foresee and you try to be ahead of the curve. So we are glad that most of us been reimagining the future. So because of that, even during a situation like this, in this pandemic situation, most of the things we have reimagined far earlier than now has actually helped us to get through this and navigate through this crisis. So that's pretty much about the reimagining piece. So re-engagement is so you yourself is a well-known HR professional. So there are a lot of academic definitions for it, but very simply, how I would say engagement is engagement could happen with employees or suppliers or your customers, but in your flyer you have mentioned it's mainly with regard to employees. So if I take that view, it's all about giving the right environment and tools to your employees,
yeah,
and the employees in return provide the deliverables, the quality deliverables expected by the organization. And while this is going on, while this give and take is going on, you build a trust and a bonding and an emotional connection with the two parties, where you are committed, to work together. So that's what I feel engagement is all about. So in this context, re-engagement means how after this crisis situation, when we start working, how can we actually re-engage? So that's pretty much with regard to the re-engagement piece,
engagement.
if I take it.
Yes.
Restart means, how can you basically, again, now we've been almost 2 months not business as usual. So how can we basically slowly start getting back to our businesses, our offices, our day-to-day operations? That's pretty much it's meant by the restart. So we'll discuss about it later based on your questions. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for that initial clarity about those three words. And from what I've heard and from the experience in these days, like reimagining is the most crucial thing, reimagining part. So what shall we do, Sampath, in that case, the reimagining part? What can we do?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, reimagining, people have been doing it for a long time. Now, for an example, Mama study karna kale, even 20 years 20 years back when
Yeah,
I was doing my undergraduate studies also, we learn about this.
yeah,
I can remember, even when I'm doing my CIM and CIMA studies, also they introduced this concept called scenario-based planning. I really don't know the singular word for that, but scenario-based planning is like, the
yeah.
organization is doing well,
Hmm, hmm.
but but you have it's doing well. That's fine, but you will have to think about whether it will continue or whether the things would
Yeah.
change, and you will have various
Hmm,
different plausible scenarios. අද මට තාමත් මතකයි ඒ කාලේ my lecturer brought some example. Classroom example was the Shell, Shell,
uh-huh.
the power company.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
basically, they are doing well. Their finances are doing well. They're a multinational company, a giant. But maybe the time to
hmm,
come, the fossil fuels will go down, sustainable energy would come, environmental factors would come, global warming will come. Now, we all know, right? I'm talking about
yeah,
22 years back, what I've learned, and so they have been preparing it for a different situation scenario. I can remember the same has been done for tobacco also those days, because tobacco was doing well, but later on you might have social pressure due to medical reasons. People might be, moving away. The new generations would be moving away from that. So like that, the organization has been doing this particularly in a more structured manner with various different frameworks also. Now, with regard to the reimagining piece, I think I can actually share with you when you mentioned that
yeah.
this one slide. I'm just share with for the information. This is somewhat what I mentioned about. Hope you can see my screen. Do you?
Yes, of course, yes. We can see.
It's like you identify your driving forces, you identify your critical uncertainties, and you can see these are your different plausible scenarios that you will have, and then you basically streamline or you change your strategy according to these different the worlds, right? These different situations. So what we are facing now is also somewhat similar. And if I may explain you a little bit now, I saw in the in papers recently. Now the government has allowed students to use calculators. Right, I still can remember for the A levels. Right? So I can remember 22 years back. So we were also saying, why do we, when we are doing science A levels, why do we need to spend time adding and dividing and multiplying? Because definitely you have to have those basic levels, but it's probably you have to start using the calculators. Then obviously that time the thinking was that it would not be fair, that everybody would not be able to afford a calculator, right? Now you can see after 22 years only, right, or 20 after 2 decades only, that we have even started using a small simple tool like that into our education system, right? But you can see during the last 2 months how things have changed. Okay? For an example, the education now, most of I don't know whether this is restricted only for Colombo. There is some sort of a criticism going on that it is not possible for various other parts of the country, but that's fine. At least you can start small and you can kind of growing. But you can see the mornings the kids are basically joining for
Yeah.
online courses. You can see even my wife is a teacher. She started the teaching,
Yes.
online, and we have
Yes.
to go through, navigate and go through those, that the initial period of getting themselves adapted to these technologies. And also there is another very buzzword. I mean, I'm trying to make it very relevant, right? Now these
Yeah.
days, even they're
Yeah.
talking
Oh,
about are we going to hold elections or not? So we are not in the situation of deciding whether you should have it or not, or which day you should have it and all. But that's another one for you to reimagine, right? We've been having elections in a particular way for so many years. Aren't we going to change it? I mean, it has done in other parts of the world. There are e-parliaments in the world, I know, and there are basically people can vote. Uh, the legislators can vote for some important bills while they are on work, in certain countries. But at the same time, we can see that since we have been put into this challenge, people start thinking. I mean, in a way, it is a blessing in disguise as well. So I have seen recently they've been mentioning about the tea auction, going
yeah.
online, and
Yes.
the court system has started using Skype and various other technologies even for their legal work. And if I come into the point of your employee thing also, Prabhash, now this thing called working from home is something not new for at least for our company. I know in the IT industry also, because it's there when you're applying for a leave in our systems also. Working from home is there, but you cannot be working from home for 2 months, 3 months like this. But
Yeah.
for a month, at least 2 3 days, it was possible. So that has been thought through, and people are talking about gig economy, right? I mean, they will. I know in Colombo, I have been to many workshops and conferences. People have been discussing about this factor, and there's a buzz about the using of drones and smart farming and drip irrigations, and also things like robotics, right? Increasingly using robotics for automation. These are the things that's been kind of been discussed in this space. So now what has happened is what we call it has to be kind of limited for certain industries or buzzwords for certain cohorts of people. But now it is going to be mainstream, and it's going to be general for everyone. And we can see immediately certain things happening during this period also. Now, Pick Me, for an example. I mean, Pick Me was one of my clients also. I know them. They are a very innovative company, and after this thing happened, suddenly overnight, the taxi business, it's not there anymore, right?
Right.
You can imagine the
Yes.
amount of pressure you have. But they immediately adapted to start delivering
Delivery service.
food and
Yes.
other things. And not only that, I think they joined with Sampath Bank also and started even delivering cash. Okay,
Yes.
these are some of the examples that I can give how you can kind of reimagine, recreate, and rethink for your futures. Yeah.
Okay, Sampath, that's very clear. So the reimagining part. So the next part, how can we re-engage people? This is very critical. Like first you have to
Yeah.
reimagine, then how do we re-engage people? Because now we have like maybe some people still they are working from home totally, and some set of people they will work from home, but the rest in the same organization will go to work, and some people they're compelled to go. So how do we re-engage these people, Sampath?
Yeah. So if I may, I mean, I just put just in order to kind of put a kind of a framework into it. Can you see this slide? I just jot down few notes. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Sampath. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So as I mentioned to you, Prabhash, so reimagining is about that, asking that what if question. So you said it's clear. Now, when it comes to re-engaging, now I just put a few points here, based on the current context. So I think the first thing, I mean, we look at the general, definition of providing the right environment, the tools, and the deliverables, as well as having that emotional connect and the trust and the bonding. So the first thing I think, as we all know, the tools are going to change, right? So probably you will have to start thinking of the different collaborative tools that you're planning to use. Now, in my context, of course, it's slightly complex because now my office, Virtusa, they use Microsoft Teams, but the vendors like you use platforms like Zoom, and now I'm actually doing certain programs with universities, and also they use like different kind of Moodle and learning management systems.
Yeah.
So like that, I think you will have to very quickly get adapted and be comfortable using the tools, because if you're going to struggle with the various tools that you're going to use,
Yeah.
I think that will have initially a demotivating factor. And also that includes your having your IT equipment in place, and your security guidelines, and how to comply with those things when you're working in a corporate sector. So I think probably if you're trying to re-engage your employees, you will have to pay um, you know a lot of effort, not a lot of effort, I would say emphasis into
Mm.
what type of tools and the platforms that you're going to use, and probably give your employees and give them up to speed, everyone up to speed, to become comfortable using them, right? And
Mm.
the second point I have put here is like the leadership style. We all know, except for few companies who work virtually, where you have virtual teams, uh, others have been mostly used to this direct supervision, micromanaging type of a situation. I know, I understand in certain industries you can have virtual teams, but if you take like a apparel industry, if you take like probably transportation and few other manufacturing type of organizations, or even agriculture, maybe it's difficult for you to work in virtual teams, but still your leadership style probably would have to change, maybe more of hands off, and people working independently, and you will have to kind of build more trust, and have visibility, and have like a common language when we speak for everybody to understand. So these type of changes, which is again fundamental, which was there in the past also, would become more important in the current context. And also the team collaboration and their habits will also change, right? For an example, you take
Yeah.
a typical day when we go to office. We basically probably in the morning we start having breakfast with few of our friends. If you go early in the morning, right? So and then we log in, we go into meetings, into one-to-one discussions with our colleagues, and we sometimes go out for
Yeah.
lunch with our colleagues. So and we have tea together. And also, since you are from various from training background as well, your training, you go to a training room, you go outbound trainings, you have fun. So I think all these things are the same way. It's not going to happen. But I think in your re-engagement strategy, what you need to do, we'll discuss it a little further later. Probably the same things, if you reimagine the outcomes, we can actually achieve. Obviously, the social distancing would happen, but still, if in that context, we might be able to still continue these important collaborations. And when I mentioned about the habits also, now I want to mention about the work from home factor also. So they usually say it's take about 3 weeks for you to form a habit, right? So now we have stayed at home and in a particular lifestyle and a particular working way for almost 4 weeks or 8 weeks, right?
Yeah.
A little
Yeah.
over 2 months. So people have
Yes.
formed new habits. Now, even your meetings. Now, I'll tell you one thing. Now, for an example, we used to have actually we have a meeting. We have virtual meetings all the time. But there's a good thing which happens like that. At 10 o'clock there is a meeting happening. At 11 o'clock there's a meeting happening. A management meeting happening. So sometimes what we do is we get used to that habit, right? So for an example, we get used to it. So sometimes if you are actually implementing something like a work from home kind of a model, probably for you to, rather than having, at various different times, if you can actually form those, Monday meeting, Tuesday meetings, 11 o'clock meeting, 3 o'clock meeting, like that,
Yeah.
people would actually get used to it. And also I mentioned something about generations. Now, obviously the millennials might be an advantage. Millennials, or the younger generation, might be quite good with the technology. But if you have people like me, which is like the borderline millennials, like, I was born in 1978, they started in 1980s. After only you call them millennials. So obviously for us it might be different. But there may be ones who are like, kind of not that IT savvy, and they might not be very comfortable with the technology. They will have to start. You'll have to spend little more time in order to onboard them into this new working model. And also I mentioned two other things, is that bad news. Bad news is going to be part and parcel of this whole situation, right? We've been hearing a lot of bad news. No, I'm not talking about the number of COVID cases going up or people dying, but we now get to hear about the economies. We get to hear about businesses clashing. We get to hear about some downsizing taking place. We already get to hear about pay cuts. We get to hear about people's progress, or promotions kind of things get maybe delayed, and maybe they had certain dreams, of their personal dreams of building a house or buying a better car or something like that. Those
Yeah.
things are going to get you have to put it in the back burner. So there's a lot of I would say negative news. So I think when you're re-engaging, that's again part of the leadership. It's quite important, and it's very important. It's vital that you look at that piece, and how can you basically address and instill a sense of positivity and optimism into your teams and your employees, the mind. That's a very important piece, as well as my last point being the well-being and your personal finance, right? The previous points I mentioned was mostly about mostly with regard to work, but I think you will have to pay extra care about the well-being of the employees, asking about whether they're okay, their families are okay. How do you travel? Are you taking your precautionary measurements, and is there any risk? How can we mitigate those risks? And also even sometimes to help them with even personal finance. I'm not talking about giving them a
Yeah.
financial, what do you call, if you can, definitely you should do that. But in another way, sometimes you can give advice for your as the leaders can start having conversation, because I myself has some time back got benefited by having these conversations with certain mentors about reframing your priorities, and how
Yeah.
can you basically navigate through difficult times, and good times as well as bad times, right? So these are the type of few things which off the cuff just came into my mind, which I jot down here, that you can use for re-engaging your employees. And then also, Prabhash, I think one thing that some HR folks also misunderstanding is engagement is not all about having fun, right? People sometimes think
Yeah.
singing songs, dancing, going out trips, and that's what you mean by engagement. But engagement is not that. It's going further than that, right? It's that whole relationship aspect of an employee, and how committed they are, how motivated they are, how well that they basically contribute to the organization, and in turn how the organization and the company or basically look after them, right? So that's pretty much which comes to my mind with regard to re-engagement piece. Yeah.
Yeah, and adding on to what you said about the personal finance, Sampath, 2 weeks back we had a webinar with the veteran, the senior finance professional Kapila Dudangoda. So
Okay.
even if viewers are interested in, so that they can go to glenmore.lk/YouTube, the YouTube site, so that you can view that video. That is very informative and a superb session we had with Kapila Dudangoda.
Yeah,
Thanks to
actually,
that.
just
Yeah,
to interrupt you, actually, I read this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. There's a book named
Richard
Rich.
Podat.
Yeah, it's about. I mean, it was almost like my favorite book, and I've been reading it and even listening to the CD, in my car or in the morning and in the evening. Maybe at that time, I was not married. Also, my wife was, traveling
Maybe
with me
this is the book.
university in the morning. So I used to put it in the morning, and when I'm coming back also, I used to put it,
Yeah.
kind of again. So repeated. So sometimes she tend to complain also. Why are you listening to the same thing over and over again? But I
This
think
is the book.
one thing that I've learned from, yeah, it's a good book. I know
Yeah.
one thing that I've learned there was, I'm not gonna, since it's, we are digressing from the point, but it's only that personal finance piece. I think there are some very good points that they mentioned about how important it is to save, how important it is to for you to invest your money, how important it is for you to, kind of understand your priorities. Have a so
Yeah.
and those things which you apply might definitely help in a situation like this. And definitely, if you're going to start it now, it's definitely going to help you to navigate through this situation as well as for a longer future, right? On a longer term.
Yeah.
So that's great that you're organizing those workshops. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Sampath. So coming into the restart part, for
Yeah.
laymen like us, say,
Yeah.
see, I'm an entrepreneur or somebody who's managing a team, a small team, or maybe a big team, whatever. Like for layman terms,
Okay.
can you help us with a few tips to go and execute with our teams when we go back? So, or maybe like even maybe we may be working like from home, but still, if you can give us some tips like for us to implement. So I know that we have to customize these things to so to our environment or the industry that we are in. It could be service
Yeah.
or manufacturing or but at least we can say some give some like advice or some tips actually. So that'll be great, Sampath.
Yeah, so I think the first thing is, basically that there's a disruption. අපි වැඩ කරන නතර කරලා තියෙන Prabhash, for an example,
Yeah.
for as I mentioned for two months. There are in physics also you tell me, to get something moving you need to put a lot of effort, but to keep the
Yeah.
momentum you need less. To
Yeah.
keep put something into a stop also you need to add a lot of force, and later on it's so similarly then දැන් අපිට මේ disruption එක ආවහම
Yeah.
නවත්තන්නත් it get a lot of effort and we had to get used to it. දැන් අලුතෙන් පටන් ගන්නකොට again for us to we have to give that initial push to
Yeah.
get it started. මම හිතන්නේ in my view that is going to be somewhat little you know
Yes.
පොඩක් අපි කියන්නේ අපිට වැඩිපුර කාලයක් සහ වෙලාවක් සහ එෆර්ට් එකක් දාන්න වෙනවා ඒකට.
Done enough.
ඊට අමතරව දැන් අපේ බිස්නස් මොඩල් එක නැත්නම් අපි මෙච්චර කල් කරගෙන හිටපු දේවල් වෙනස් වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. For example, අපි කියමු කස්ටමර්ස් ලව අපි කවුරු හරි සේල්ස් කරන කෙනෙක් හිටියා නම් එහෙම they go and on a daily basis make
Yeah.
calls and go and meet customers කියලා හිතමුකෝ. Now
Yes.
obviously that model or that sales model or that that process is going to be at least in the near future for at least few months. Hopefully, it's going to stop. So, what are we going to do then? We have to continue to promote our goods, sell our goods, make our products and services visible to our clients. Then I think the next point is, as I mentioned earlier, this is actually linked. All these three things are linked. So you will have to start reimagining. If I am not going to visit the customers, how am I going to basically address my customers, right? How can I going to connect? එතකොට දැනටම දැන් මේ වෙලාවේ ඔයගලන්ට පටන් ගන්න පුළුවන්. Now I think I have not seen Glenmore doing this type of webinars. At least I have not seen it about 2 months back, but I think I can see a lot of, not just like Glenmore, there are various other companies also have started doing this on Facebook and various other places. That means they have now itself started early, very early. They have started, changing and learning new things to get adapted to this situation. I think since you have some time, think about that and see how you can basically learn and adapt these various different tools and processes which is out there and get you up to speed. I mean, that's another important factor. So learning becomes I would say, a key factor here, right? For all of us. ඊට පස්සේ අනිත් එක තමයි I think you need to have a little bit of empathy also, as I mentioned again, because the customers' needs and priorities, attitudes definitely going to change. Particularly with regard to certain ones are going to get impacted more. For an example, if they're luxury goods, I mean, obviously I'm talking about very high-end ones which are not getting impacted. They still continue to have them, but if you have the upper middle class kind of segments, if you were catering to them, you will see that their aspirational, the needs, wants, their priorities and attitudes might change, at least in the short term. So then how are you going to basically differentiate or change your offer in order to suit that? Maybe you don't have to completely change. සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම කනපිට ගහලා අලුතෙන්ම කරන්න ඕන දෙයක් නෑ. Maybe you may have to do small differentiations in your offer in order to suit to that sentiments, right? අපි දැක්කනේ, I mean, I'm trying to be very I'm trying to be non-political, and I'm trying to be very kind of trying to relate to the situation. අපි දැක්ක දැන් අර ඒ දවස්වල ground එකක් ගැන කතා කරා, but there was a little bit of a hype about it. That is because when there are certain things going on, certain things, even if it is good or bad, might does not go hand in hand. So even if your marketing campaigns or your sales pitch or the way that you communicate with your people, you probably will have to take the context and the sentiments into place and play accordingly. You will have a lot of empathy with various different the customer segments that you have. And also the focus setup product වෙනස් ගැන අපි normally කතා කරන්නේ short term and long term. The short term, if you're talking about short term, I think it's all about resilience and survival in the short term. And it's like it's like a shock for all of us, right? For employees it's a shock, for companies it's a shock, for customers it's a shock, and for the economy it's a shock, globally it's a shock. So obviously it will have that desperate situation, depression, we come back again, Prabhash. So similarly, the first stage would be to overcome that and then come back to our in the short term to focus more on the survival piece. Then after, and also I assume, I mean, when I'm imagining, I think the way things are going to play after this is fundamentally going to be different. That is my at least my viewpoint with regard to the work that I do, with regard to education, with regard to company training, HR processes and all. At least that is going to change, right? So I think we start in the long term also changing our plans and strategies to basically to align with the current situation. So that's pretty much what I can share with you.
Okay, Sampath. Coming into like real life examples from your industry, what have you done, Sampath? If you can share some of those.
Yeah. So now we all know, I mean, I'm working for an IT company, Virtusa currently. So they're the largest the IT company in Sri Lanka. We're into IT services. So I think my probably what I can speak about generally about what they have done. Of course, since we are a global organization, global delivery organization, IT services, our clients are also, I'm not naming them in public, but they are like the big banks and the what do you call the telco companies, and sometimes very critical life sciences or what we call the medical related the fields that they're in. So obviously the first thing, as we said, you have to immediately go into 100% working from home kind of a situation, and I think our teams have done a I would say unbelievable job of facilitating that, being a large company with so many restrictions from client sides and from security factors and confidentiality factors and all the buy laptops, it's not possible because nothing is working, the whole global lockdown. So even they managed to even ship, not the ship, basically send all their computers to their the employees' houses, and they started working from home. That was initial stage. But now I think with regard to engagement kind of a thing, we can see the HR teams are doing great job in kind of engaging employees through various different virtual events. I can remember I'm also very somewhat involved. We've been planning, we've been having, as an IT company, we've been doing a lot of hackathons, right, for internal innovations and learning, development purposes. So, after this situation, we moved into a kind of a virtual hackathon model. Yeah? And then sometimes, even though we said it's when moving it virtually has benefited us also because it has a larger participation, and people start working in virtual groups, and also we managed to even get the mentors and the facilitators, or the the evaluators from different geographies because we are doing it virtually. So actually, in my view, it comparatively it has become better, right? So we did not have to stop those things. I mean, only thing that you probably might not see is like when you're running a normal hackathon or something like that, you have bean bags, people eating what do you call this different pizzas, and having uh, in one room trying to kind of crack certain things. That might not happen, but still, even if you reimagine, even your pizza can be delivered, a piece of pizza can be delivered to home, right, or to your house. I'm just thinking out loud. Okay, so this has been done, and also most of our trainings are now online. It's on in online platforms. There's almost about 80% reduction in 80% reduction in online platforms, and certifications, and also we conduct virtual onboardings. We conduct counseling, career counseling, and other types of counseling, and also as we said, so just like this, we have on a day in and day out basis webinars, similarly, and then we can see high level of participation. I mean, that's another great thing, right? Those days, sometimes when you do a classroom training, if you have about 40 members, maybe you will have about at least 10 to 5-10 members might not be able to take part, but we have seen that sometimes our webinars and our online sessions, there's full participation. So those are kind of good things. I can actually show you a small video clip of this. Let me see whether I have it. Yeah, can you see Prabhash?
Not yet.
This
Not
is
yet.
something which.
Yes, I can see. Yes, can see.
Yeah. So these are. I mentioned you as some of our partners are conducting a hackathon, right? So online virtual kind of a hackathon. These are the teasers. Also, Prabhash, I would like to show you
Yep.
this video also. Now, this is a kind of a, it's actually called simulation based. Now, a lot of people are asking us, now team building and, team collaboration and those type of things. Would you think that you can achieve by doing, online trainings and things? So there are two types of online trainings, right? One is like you have structured courses, where you go by topic. But what you're seeing right now is something that we kind of implemented. These are kind of simulation. Actually, it works like a game.
Yeah.
it's somewhat like this, this a network, wide area network games that people play, where you can real time play with the participants, right? So whatever a particular a team member or a participant does impact the whole the scenario. So the other 2 or 3 members who are participating into this activity basically will have to interactively play. So this has become new experiences for employees, as well as not only us, but I know for a fact even companies like Demo, they are actually they have done these type of simulations. I know for a fact, at least, because I know their the management there. So various other companies are also start to adopt these different sense. And also one other thing is with regard to entertainment also. There were some things like open mic things where it was a very common thing, where you have a small gathering where there's an open mic, people come and perform. Now I see recently, um, there are a few companies who are conducting like open mic virtually, open mic sessions virtually. Even at Virtues, our HR team, our engagement team got involved, and they even ran a virtual, music, what they call a, like a session with some artists joining in, and even the employees joining in, and we had very high level of participation. That's pretty much on the engagement and the entertainment aspect of it. Yeah, so I can give you
Yes.
different, multiple examples, case studies that what we have done, but at the interest of time, I'll stop.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Sampath. And Sampath, there are real instances like this. Say now, some of our team members come to work now on a regular basis, right?
Right.
Some will not, and they will continue to work, right?
Okay.
And this might create some unhealthy situation. Like, okay, then කට්ටියක් වැඩට එනවා, එකම department එක වෙන්න පුළුවන්, maybe in the same organization, and part of the team is working from home. So then වැඩට එන කට්ටියට සමහරලාට හිතෙන්න පුළුවන්, අයියෝ මේ අපි වැඩට එනවා, හැබැයි අනිත් කට්ටිය හරි සන්තෝෂෙන් ගෙදරට වෙලා ඉන්නවා. So how do you, this might create some unhealthy situation amongst the team. So this is the reality, because some organizations, whether they like it or not, they have to come because of the nature of the job, like say transportation or manufacturing or whatever. But some people, ඒගොල්ලන්ට අර මේ opportunity එක තියෙනවා, කට්ටිය හැමදාම මේගොල්ලන් වැඩට එන්න ඕනේ. මොකද මේ job එකේ හැටියට maybe a part of an admin team. හැබැයි සමහරක් කට්ටියට ගෙදර ඉඳලා වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන්. මේ how do you manage, how to balance this situation, Sampath?
Yeah. Then ගොතෝනේ ගෙදරින් ඉඳලා සතුටින් ඉන්නවා කියලා, ජොලි ඉන්නවා කියලා. I don't know whether you are doing that. අපි නම් බලාගෙන ඉඳන් කොහොමද එළියට යන්නේ කියලා. Now I think we feel we are highly motivated to. I mean, I had to go to office last week, and I was so happy to see my office, my cubicle, and to at least say hi to at a distance to some of my co-workers, because now staying at home is not anymore a privilege, right? But anyway, cracking your question, in my view, I think it's a little immature way of thinking. If somebody is thinking that way, අපිට තංකල් හිතනවා තමයි දැන් මම වැඩට යනවා, අයි පොඩි ළමයි වගේ මම වැඩට යනවා, අයි අරයා ගෙදර ඉන්නවා, right? එතකොට අර පොඩි ළමයි කතා කරන දේ අපි දැන් අපේ ගෙදර මගේ දුල දෙන්නේ දැන් එක්කෙනෙක් පාඩම් කරනවා නම්, එක්කෙනෙක් ටීවී බලනවා නම්, පාඩම් කරන එක්කෙනා කියනවා අක්කා ටීවී බලනවා නම් ඇයි මම පාඩම් කරන්න ඕනේ, like that. So I think the similar side of a mindset, right? So how can you change this is, I think someone has to have a discussion, or maybe the leaders or whoever who's interact with them have to basically make them understand also. Now I'll take an example. I mean, analogy you take a cricket team. Now a cricket team, you don't see 100% of the time, every day everybody's performing. Some days batsmen la fail වෙනවා. ඒ දවසට bowlers la defend කරන්න අඩු ගානක් ඉඳලා they will have to work really hard to push it through the tournament, right? සමහරවිට බෝලර්ස්ලා මේ හරියට බෝල් කරේ නැත්නම් එහෙම you will see high you know, there's a big target and the batsman will have to work really hard to basically progress through the journey of the up to the cup or that මොකද තියෙන මේ trophy එක. ඒතකොට ඔයා බලන්න දැන් wicket keeper now this is something I always quote, right? Now wicket keeper has to focus every 300 balls, right? 50 over game එකේ හැම ball එකකටම focus කරන්න ඕනේ කවුද අපේ wicket keeper. And some wicket keeper, right? I mean comparatively I'm talking about. Maybe a fielder කෙනෙකුට keeper පාරක් තමයි එන්නේ මේ ball එක. හැබැයි man of the match වෙනකොට it's very rarely a person become a man of the match just by because you are a wicket keeper, unless otherwise you caught 5 catches or something like that. Most of the time it's a batsman and a bowler, right? But anyway, you know, as a team, all these factors or all these roles are important for you to progress. You need to have 11 members to basically at least to play a game, right? So similarly, in an organization also, various different various different departments and roles and responsibilities are given, and time to time I mean all of them are important to run the just like playing a match, everyone is important to run the show, but depending on the time certain functions become critical. Okay, now for an example, if your company is struggling with sales or a very competitive type of a situation, your sales marketing teams becomes critical. Okay, and if you are having some difficulty in your finances, you need to basically find investments, you need to grow, so then obviously your finance teams and they play a critical role. And if your business is thriving, doing well, and you need to grow, your recruitment teams, your HR teams, your training teams, your retention teams, they are going to be critical at that point. So and there will be more focus, and as you say in this webinar, so the spotlight will be on them. Similarly, in a situation like this, the facilities teams, the transportation teams, the admin teams, maybe the BCP teams, they become very critical, and there will be very high level of visibility for them, and actually they should take it as a positive thing, because the reason is you actually you get an opportunity to show to the organization your role is a critical role, and you have a high level of visibility, you have high level of appreciation taking place. So I don't think that's the point where you should start saying, hey, I'm coming and you're not coming, and I'm doing and you're not doing, why are you doing, kind of thing. I mean, it's a very petty blame game kind of a thing. I think you need to start thinking very holistically. If somebody thinks like that, they will have to grow up. If there are team leads and leaders are there, if there are some sentiments like that, I think they will have to talk to them and explain them about the situation. That's my take on it.
Okay, thank you, Sampath. And before we move on to the questions, so my last thing, this COVID-19 challenge in a way opened a lot of new avenues for people, as you mentioned during your discussion. How do you see training in the new situation, doing virtually kind of a thing? So it's evolved. So how do you see that, Sampath?
Yeah, so this is Prabhash, I think not only during this period. I mean, I've been an evangelist of this for the last so many years through my trainings, as well as my startup, as well as throughout I've been actually in the corporate sector. So we were always trying to talk about this model. So in my view, of course you will find now the structured programs you would find in various different platforms. Some are paid, like in Udemy platform and all. Certain ones are like on Coursera and other MOOCs type of things. So I mean, we've been predicting this, right? So the very soon people will not start spending money, or companies will not start investing money on content, in the sense bringing in a person and talking about what something is all about. Okay, I think just like the songs, right? That they have to sell albums, but later on it gets changed. Now, of course, the business model has changed, right? Now how the musicians make money, the royalty, the whole model has changed from the those days. Similarly, මට හිතන හැටියට my thinking, and it has already happened also, we have seen it happening in our companies like us also, in large companies also. I think because of the cost advantage and because of the great programs available out there, and because of the agility, Prabhash. The reason is now in an industry like us, our the program technologies are changing, weekly, monthly, right? For example, there is a version today, tomorrow there will be a 2.0, or I don't know, 3.0, like that. It changes. So we don't have the ability to kind of find a trainer, invite that person, and develop and design a program and run it. And the cohort of people who need it also lesser, not a large number. So we are also very much now moving into these online platforms. But there is one thing about it. Now the online platforms are great. Their content is great. They are sometimes they are the instructional design is becoming great. Not only the structured courses, even you go to YouTube, it's improving day by day. So what I see is people will not start very soon start less spending on the content and the knowledge piece. But there is an evolving piece, right? The evolving piece is, yeah, you have so much of scattered learning. People can learn, but the companies might need somebody to assess you and to certify you and to kind of guarantee you this person is of a particular level. Now we can see there's an increase in that. Okay. Now for an example, even if it is a promotion cycle, if you are checking the potential of an employee, maybe the organization might need a third party vendor, a credible vendor, to kind of assess and guarantee where this person is staying. Or maybe an employer might be using, just like but you did this assessment centers kind of thing, to certify and to guarantee this person is of a particular level of potential and suitability for a position. So I see training moving into that. And also there will be very high demand for insights, right? Practitioners, there will be very high demand for that. And also I see things like simulation and active learning kind of the model would get evolved. That is those are the few things that I can mention about, specifically about your question about training, how it would impact.
Okay, Sampath. Now we'll move into some of the questions that we have received through emails and text. So thank you, Hettiarachchi, for this question. So what is your opinion on the most wanted skills that may have a demand in the new norm? What is your opinion on the most wanted skills that have a demand in the new norm? Hettiarachchi has asked this question.
Yeah. So again, right, we go back to our reimagining piece. So if you now what we can foresee is that people in the sense, at least the companies will start increasingly trying to adopt technology in order to ensure that they would not have disruptions for their business processes. And that we are going to see. And also because of that situation, and also the customers, as you see the way that you are going to do marketing, the sales, or even now when you talk about marketing, sales, even these days HR, finding employees, recruitment is also like marketing and sales, right? It's where you will have to do advertising, you have to get them. So if you look at it, increasingly I can see people will start focusing on reaching out using digital channels. So definitely, I mean, it's quite, these days it's common sense also. I think any skill which would your what I would say is your IT literacy, or your ability to adapt into these the platforms would definitely be a key factor. And later on, I think it would become even like a normal, they call it the new normal. So then what will happen is, just like reading and writing, it could not anymore become a differentiator. And also I have seen certain, at least from my industry, I have seen there is there's a very high demand for cloud technologies, because everyone is talking about moving your on premise. I mean, this is not during COVID. It's just COVID or this pandemic has just re-emphasize the need for it. But the future most probably would be on cloud technologies. So if anyone who needs to know about the cloud technologies, even your in various things, right? Because your the cloud is also, it's a general, you have a
Yeah.
general factor as well as it is there in the various different functions also, right? So like Salesforce is there, then you have the Oracle Cloud is there. So if you want to learn about those things, that's great. But anyway, cloud is going to play a big role, and also data science and analytics. Then of course digital, not the digital, what we call it, the e-marketing, and what they call this, the branding, piece on digital platforms. These type of things are definitely going to be indeed, because that's also a big challenge. Even before that, also is the thing. It's a crowded space. How can you find an expert who can basically put these things into practice? I mean, we know there are a lot of people who know how to create a Facebook page,
Yeah.
but there is very limited number of professionals who have an in-depth understanding about how to use social media to address a specific market segment and to basically promote your goods and services. Okay,
Yeah.
now that's the level of depth you might need. I'm not talking about just creating a Facebook page or having a LinkedIn profile or something. I mean, that might become just a normal thing, but probably a competency and in-depth knowledge about these things would definitely be helpful. And generally speaking, your resilience, adaptability, your openness to learn new
Yeah.
things, and
And
being creative and innovative, those general skills will
yeah.
definitely be part and parcel of this whole the
and
new
and
skills that you need.
and also Sampath, communication across the board, because we are in a very challenging time. So sometimes the top makes decisions, and so that needs to be cascaded properly to the bottom, because otherwise they will make decisions, but bottom level, so they don't know what is happening in the organization. There could be a lot of like uneasy situations or job insecurity, redundancy, or
Yeah, yeah. So that's where
how do we communicate? Yes.
that's what Prabhash. So when you say communication, I always call it this a
Mm.
space time, right? It's
Yeah.
like we say the space time, in physics,
Yeah.
it is everywhere. So it's like that.
Yes. Right.
Communication is across, right? So there's no doubt
Yeah.
about that. So even if you're in marketing, you
That's the
need
key,
communication. Even
probably.
in IT, you need communication. Even in HR, you need communication. Even in your you're an entrepreneur, you need communication. You're a manager, you need communication. So across the board, everywhere, effective communication is a must. So that would become definitely just like your normal literacy becomes a
Yeah.
fundamental skill. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
But over and above that, only
Yes.
what I mentioned,
Yes. Yeah.
the specific skills that you may need.
Okay. Yeah. We'll take the last two questions, Sampath. There are many, but one is talking about the reimagining part. Thank you, Ajit, for the question. So, reimagining,
Yeah,
reimagine is something everyone's skill or needs
yeah,
some inherent skill. That's what he is asking. So,
yeah.
reimagining part, something inherent or everybody's skill. Is a common? Is it a common skill?
Yeah. So it's a very good question. Excellent question. We've been, keep on being asked. So we all know, I mean, everyone. I'm sure your participants who are logged in are professionals. They know that your brain has, a long time back. Your left side and a right side, and certain ones are inheritedly right brain. They are more creative. They are more innovative, and the other bunch is more critical kind of thing. Yes, I would agree that there are some inherent skills also, not skills for inherent, we call the gifted people, and they are more, sometimes wired in that way. But that's not now. This is a question keep on being asking from us also. Can you make a person creative and innovative, in the classroom or in an organization if they are not gifted? So my answer is yes, because there are certain methodologies, there are certain frameworks, Prabhash. So if you are being gifted with that naturally, if you are, then of course you have it, right? But a person who does not have it cannot say that, I was not born with it. It's something like, as we say, leadership also. Certain ones have that traits. Certain ones can develop it in the classroom or by attending into workshops as well. So there are certain frameworks. So one framework that I myself has gone through is there's this model called design thinking, right? So there's this
Yeah.
one company called IDEO, which ran actually a free 4 weeks course. It's actually run on a platform called Acumen. It's a MOOC. Right? It's absolutely free, and you get actually certified in this IDEO
Okay.
framework. Now they give you a what you call a it's a framework. How can you basically anyone and an entire company can start becoming reimagining, recreating, creating prototypes, and
Okay.
kind of coming up with some human
Yeah. Okay,
centered
Sampath.
designs.
Yeah. Since we are running out of time, so I'll take this as the last question. I'm sorry for the others, but yeah, thank you, Vindya, for the question. So, according to your experience, do you think working from home is much productive compared to working in the workplace?
It is in certain situations. Now, for an example, we all know. I mean, these are common knowledge, right? For an example, we don't
Yeah.
have to spend in the morning getting dressed up. Now, even at least for your workshop, I'll have to get dressed up today on a Sunday morning with a with a blazer and all. I did it for a long time, and it feels good. But obviously, you save on your dressing up and traveling time. And when you go to office, various other disturbances and things like that come in. And yes, I agree with you. For some extent, working from home is pretty much for me also, for myself, as well as for certain industries, certain jobs. It's very
Yeah,
productive.
there are pros and cons in everything, no?
Absolutely.
So,
But then
yeah.
there is when going to office is sometimes certain jobs it's required, absolutely required, and also we are human beings, so there is a human side to it also. So when we go to office, it's not only for productivity and what do you call the work only. We go to office, right? It's a community. We have our colleagues, and we get to meet people. We sometimes get, even without our knowledge, we get coached and mentored by various different people. And also we feel good sometimes to having a meal with our co-workers and like that. So there are two sides with pros and
Yes, it
cons.
depends.
uh,
It depends,
it
Sampath,
depends.
actually. Yes, yeah, because recently we
And then
had some
also one
coaching.
other thing is, Prabhash, some people actually find it very hard to do working from home also because of disturbances, right? And
Yes,
I can
exactly.
remember there's one organization wanted even for me to have a 15 minutes, knowledge sharing on how to kind of set up a home office and how to have a
Yeah,
schedule and
yeah.
how to avoid disturbances, kind of a thing. So maybe that is also challenging, but that's something that you can prepare for.
Okay, Sampath, thank you so much. So we'll stop the questions at this point. So thank you, Sampath, again, and it's very interesting and very practical. So, colleagues, please try to implement some of these things, but you will have to customize, of course, so to your environment, to your culture, and so that you can see the difference. Hope you have enjoyed this session, and if you want some support, could be a virtual training or any advice, please get in touch with Glenmore. We will share this video on glenmore.lk/YouTube and also in Facebook and in LinkedIn for those who want to listen it again and for those who have missed it. So all of our previous sessions are also in all of these media. So next week, we will bring you an international flavor to our webinar series. Take the mystery out of human capital. Take the mystery out of human capital by Jimmy Ong. So Jimmy is from Malaysia. He is the principal consultant and solutions director of OmniView Consulting, a well-reputed organization based in Malaysia. I'll tell the topic again. Take the mystery out of human capital. So we have already shared the details in Glenmore Global Resources Facebook page, YouTube, and in LinkedIn. So please get registered. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining with us and have a pleasant day. Stay safe. Thank you.